Welcome to another Mech 1000 video. In this video I'm going to show you how to do the isometric part of drawing 11.2 from the textbook, the MP3 player. So I think by now, at this point in the semester, you should be able to do the orthographic views, the top, front, side, and bottom views of the MP3 player on your own just fine. But in this chapter, the new concept that's being introduced is isometric drawings. So you might need a little bit of help with that. And so I'm going to show you how to do that. So if we're doing an isometric drawing, we want to turn this ISO draft mode on. So we click on that and you can see right away the grid lines in the background have changed, the cursor has changed. That lets us know that we are in fact in our isometric mode. So I'm going to start off by drawing the basic outer dimensions of the MP3 player. And so the width is 6.18, and I do believe that really is just 6.18. Since this is not a machined part, it's obviously an electronic device. I don't think these dimensions, any of these decimals, are necessarily multiples of an 1/8 or a 16th or 32nd of an inch. I think the decimal values you see are truly what they are. So I'm actually going to turn off my snap mode because I don't need to be snapping to multiples of an 1/8 or a 16th because hardly any of my dimensions are going to be even multiples of those fractions. So I've got a 6.18 width, and let's see about the height. 10.36. And I'm actually thinking these dimensions must be metric. That's right, they must be metric because a 10-inch MP3 player, that'd be pretty wild. So that would be like the size of an iPad, not a iPod. So I suppose maybe what we should do here is check out our units. Type units and enter that. This really shouldn't affect a whole lot because we're still using decimal. So we don't need to change the actual units. But as far as the insertion scale goes, we should change this to be millimeters. And that's it. And we can continue drawing with our drawing as we were before. Okay, so I'm going to come back to the left. Use my polar tracking or snap tracking to pick up that corner and then draw straight down. So I've got the front face of the MP3 player and its depth. Let's take a look here and see where the depth dimension is. It's in the top view. The depth is 1.4. So I'm going to just take these two faces, switch my isoplane, and copy them up and to the right 1.4. All right, and for now, I'll connect these with lines, although these lines are going to get rounded off, some of them. Okay, so now I've got the basic box shape. I've got the front and back of the box. And so what else can we do here? I suppose we could start with the circles for the control pad. So again, there are no circles. We don't draw circles in isometric drawings. We draw ellipses. I think what I might do though is draw a line from the midpoint here. There's the midpoint. Straight up 3.04. So the end point of this line is going to be the center of my iso circle, which is an ellipse. Be sure to choose the axis end option for ellipse. That's going to give us the ability to choose iso circle. Then I can choose my center and specify a diameter. So enter D, enter, of 3.81. And there's also an inner circle. Let's make that, not a circle, not a circle, an ellipse, isocircle, that has a diameter of 1.524. All right, now the thickness, these are going to create a bit of a cylinder. So the cylinder is going to protrude out from the front face of this MP3 player. And the depth of that is, might take me a second here. It looks like it is 0.06. That dimension can be found on the side view of the drawing in the textbook. And so I'm going to just take these two circles, or isocircles, that I've drawn, copy them. I have to switch my isoplane in order to be able to copy them in this direction, this down into the left direction. And that distance is just 0.06. So not very deep at all. But then I can trim the front half of the back ellipse and trim the back half of this ellipse right here. So that gives me the illusion of depth here, for that to actually have a third dimension sticking out away from the surface of the MP3 player. Okay, let's see what else we've got going on here. We have the screen. Okay, and it has, I think I'll just draw it off to the side. I often do this. I draw things not in their final position, but I draw them somewhere else and then move them into position. So the screen is just going to be a rectangle, or since this is an isometric drawing, a parallelogram. It looks like it has a width of 5.242 and a height of 4. Now come over here, pick up that corner, then come straight down. All right, so there's where it is, and it's going to be 1/2 inch down from the top. So I can draw a line from the midpoint here, coming straight down 1/2 inch. And then I can move this screen from this midpoint to that endpoint. And then I can just get rid of that line. And just like how the cylinder here protruded out 0.06, it looks like the screen is offset back in 0.06. But before I do that, I think I need to round off these corners. So the four corners of the screen, this screen are rounded off, but we can't use the fillet command because it uses arcs. We can't use circles, arcs, or fillets in an isometric drawing because they use circular or parts of a circle, and we don't want actual circles. We need to use ellipses. So what I'm going to do, again, I'm going to draw it off to the side, do an isocircle, and it has a radius of 0.25. Okay, so now I can copy this. Not going to be too worried about the exact locations right now. Just going to get them approximately where I want them to be. These 4 isocircles close to the 4 corners. And then I can come in here and move them. I'm looking for, let's see, do I have my, I do have my quadrant snap turned on. So maybe I do this. Maybe I move it from its center to be right on the corner. And then I just need to move it this way 1/4 inch and move it up 1/4 inch. And then I trim trim off the ends of the lines, and trim off the inside of the ISO circle. See, that rounds it off with an elliptical arc rather than an actual circular arc. All right, and then I just repeat this process at the other four corners. Let's move this one over 0.25, and then move it up 0.25, and trim. Didn't quite pick that up. There we go. Move it over to the corner, and then we move it again this way, 1/4 of an inch. Actually, these are 1/4 of a millimeter, aren't they? And trim. Last one. I know this has been a bit repetitive, but we're almost there. Move it over 1/4, move it down 1/4, and then trim. Okay, so I've got the front of the screen with all four corners rounded off. Now all I need to do is copy. I really just need the bottom, the left side, and these three corners. And I'm going to need to switch my isoplane so I can copy it in this direction. I start to move it in this direction and type in 0.06. Now if I come up here, I just need to do a little bit of trimming. Let's trim that off there, and down here we're going to trim off that part of the elliptical arc. Okay, so suppose I could do the same thing at the top corners. We need to round off these corners, and they have a fillet radius of 0.625. So I'm going to draw an isocircle in my top isoplane, 0.625. Then I'll move this right on the corner and copy this from this corner over to here. And then I can move it in this direction, 0.625, and move it in this direction, 0.625. And I'll do the same over here, move it in, 0.625, and move it towards the front, 0.625. And then I can do some trimming. Trim off the corners there, and trim off the inside of the ellipse. Trim off these corners and the inside of that ellipse. Okay, now on the side, the radius is 0.5. So, nope, not a circle, but an isocircle. Make sure I'm in the right side isoplane. The radius of 0.5. Move that up there, and then move this down 0.5, move it forward 0.5, and then do some trimming. Alright, that didn't quite do it. There's a little gap there, isn't there? Okay, I'll fix that in the next video. I'm just about out of time right now, so I am going to finish this video right here, and we'll resume in the next video.